Hi everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, where it's our show where we review things in the world of television. Normally that includes episode by episode reviews of currently on air shows, or season by season reviews of long running shows, or doing this special spoiler filled edition of a show that we are reviewing right now, but it's been some time, and now I feel like it's appropriate. You've had enough time to watch the season. It's been a few years, give or take. This is a new experimental thing we're doing. Not experimental thing, this is what we're going to do going forward, since for me, What's in the Tube is about to hit its 4th year, which first of all, I need to take a step back. Like 4 years of doing this show, my show, continuously. And I feel old because this show started at before the pandemic, and here we are. I mean, don't get me wrong, the world's not even close to being better. Like, yeah, pandemic aside, somewhat being kind of over, we still have a recession. We have a ton of inflation. We still have a lot of problems. We have a lot of wars out there. There's still a lot of things going on in the world. And I'm still holding on to the hope that we'll be fine next year. And I say that every freaking year. But the fact is that it's crazy for me that I've been doing the show so long consecutively, doing now almost 400 episodes, which is the most I've ever produced for any show I have done for this channel. It's surreal to think. And as a way to I never want to forget my past roots. I never want to forget what I've done in the past, and I never wanted to forget how we started. It's for me, like, our first episode was doing the season 2 premiere review for The Rookie, which feels so long ago. I'm now rewatching the whole first season again. And I chose this on purpose because now we're about to start season 5 next week. It'll be here pretty soon. And the fact for me, it's like, we're about to start the 5th season of The Rookie. It wasn't that long ago. I was in college going to school and passing by buses with Nathan Fillion's beautiful face plastered all over it, promoting The Rookie. I think it was like the first time successfully a marketing campaign has made me, an average viewer, actually interested in a show that literally I had no interest in. I really didn't. I thought The Rookie, so I knew of Nathan Fillion. I knew of him as his voice work with Green Lantern. I see him in a couple of other things, like Percy Jackson 2. I think he was in something else I've seen growing up. He's always been around in my life. He's always been a consistent factor. He came more into prominence in my life when the Uncharted fan film came out back in, I believe, 2017. I think it came out before The Rookie came out. So that's kind of when I discovered him again and kind of like realized, oh, this guy's a cool guy. He's a very interesting fella. And now nowadays, it's so ingrained in how much I really respect him a lot. And, I've seen him in his other works, such as the Suicide Squad movie. I've seen him in podcasts. He's done some other things. He's a world traveler. Okay, I keep crushing on Nathan Fillion. He next to Dwayne Johnson, he's my man crush. So let's get that out of the way. But no, so going into I went into The Rookie going in blind when I started back in 2018. Had no interest in the source material. Obviously, it was an original IP, so there was no previous adaptation to judge it against. It was literally just what it is, and it also was the first time I watched a procedural, because I always was very turned off by the idea of procedural, because they're all, okay, they're like the traditional, there's a doctor show, and then there's the cop show, and then there's the lawyer show. It's like for me, it never really interests me. It really didn't. I think the only time I've ever been interested was Blue Bloods, and that was because my high school Scientology teacher. Okay, hold on, grammar mistake, not Scientology teacher. One of my science teachers in, ironically, the major I studied in college, she got lazy one week, and she's like, "Yeah, you know what? Y'all gotta learn something, but I don't want to teach y'all, so I'm gonna put on an episode of Blue Bloods." Honestly, that was the most interested I was in a procedural for a long time. I never picked it up because I'm not watching 11 seasons. I'm just not. I don't got that time anymore. I mean, I do, but I don't. It's just not time sparely. So I wasn't really interested in procedurals, and then this show came out, and I was like, okay, I see some procedural elements, but they do something different. They do something unique, and I think the whole theme of the show. And ironically, I was talking to one of my best friends a few weeks ago on Discord during one of our She-Hulk nights. And we were discussing The Rookie a bit. I didn't even know he watched it. But it kind of reminded me, ironically, as I was watching this season again, is that the whole theme of the show is hope. Where you have shows like, Arrow, which is all about redemption. And you have other shows such as How I Met Your Mother, which is about, destiny and the story to get to your destiny. It's all about, there's always an underlining theme, even as you change showrunners, you change show writers, you change direction. There's always that specific theme, you kind of keep it all going at the end of the day, regardless of those changes. And I feel like throughout the 4 seasons, I've watched The Rookie, the 3 I've reviewed so far, and the upcoming 5th one as well as the spin-off. I feel like the whole theme of it is hope, that no matter what, and I said this a lot during when the pandemic happened, and again, this is all resonating so perfectly right now, is that hope is what kind of gives things going. It kind of gives you the motivation to wake up the next day, because you never know what's going to happen. You hope for the best day possible. It could be shitty. It could be the best day. You never really know. It's unpredictable. You just hope that things are going to be all right at the end of the day. Like when you wake up that morning, you're going to be at least okay when you go to bed that night. And that's kind of how this show is, where you find our main character kind of in the worst position of his life, uncertain what to do. He takes that big risk. He hopes for the best. And spoilers, if you haven't seen it yet, it all pays off. And for me, that, especially going back to season 1, it was kind of detrimental to me to kind of like remember where these characters came from, and in contrast to where we are in season 5, about to start that. And it kind of makes me respect of how, like, oh my God, how freaking young these guys, well, not young, it was like 4 years ago, it's not that bad, but just how naive they were. Like, a lot of the relationships were just starting out there, and a lot of new things I've discovered in the context of rewatching season 1, with the context of knowing where season 2 was going to go, where season 3 was going to go, where season 4 was going to go, what we're seeing so far with season 5. It kind of gives that extra layer where I don't think I would have given those thoughts had I reviewed it at least the week before, because originally I was planning on reviewing the entire first season before we started the season 2 episode reviews. And that never happened because I don't know why that didn't happen. I got busy or something happened. I really don't know. But I didn't get to do it. And I think that was the best thing for me to do, because I did not want to half-ass it, or kind of have that, that newfound fandom knowledge. Like, I've taken some time. It's been some time. You've had seasons ahead of it, and you're going back, and you have this much more appreciated context of it, and knowing that, okay, there's been some time, and that's why I want to do this format, where hopefully if we do come back for Rookie Season 6 down the road, hopefully, knocking on wood, when we talk about Season 2 again, this time with the context of, like, another 4 years have passed, it will allow it to breathe better, and allow me to kind of like really remember what was the best parts of it, and what were the lessons that were learned in the season that kind of came back later on to kind of improve itself in later seasons. So going to proper, here we go. Sorry about the whole long spiel. Let's get into it. The whole proper season 1 spoiler-filled review. And before I continue any further, yes, there will be plenty of spoilers. So if you haven't seen The Rookie, the complete first season, please go check it out. Only on Hulu right now. I think it's on the ABC app. I'm not sure. I think it's only available on Hulu. So you can go binge the entire show if you want to before season 5. I don't know how you're going to do it. It's literally a week away, so Godspeed on you. Actually, less than a week away. We're coming out on Monday. The show comes back on Sunday, so never mind. Yeah, good luck to you. Good luck to you if you want to do that. But anyway, going in properly. Story-wise, there isn't really much of a story. It's more of like just the story of life, where you just have your characters and you kind of go. And you kind of let that dictate. Where, like, for me, like, I grew up watching traditional television as when I first started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., for example. It's kind of have that similar format of, like, there is a underlining big villain for them to fight. But in this case, it's a procedural where, like, there is no big villain to fight. You might have a big fight in a couple episodes, but in reality, like, there is no underlying, villain for them to fight. Like, there's no, like, criminal boss or a mafia member or like a terrorist they have to fight throughout the entire season. That's not the case here. It's just the characters going through life and learning as they go on this journey, and realizing what more they have to learn, regardless if you're a 40-year-old rookie or a fresh off the beat 20-year-old something, just fresh out of the academy. It doesn't matter. You still have much more to learn. And I think this also provides motivation that, like, it's okay if you want to restart your life in your 40s. It's always grown up in the mentality of, like, by your 40s, you should either have a stable career, maybe have a wife, or not a wife, maybe have a partner, a family, a house, something solid that you could take the second half of your life into. And we're thrown into this story where our main protagonist, John Nolan, just went through a very actually quick time divorce. Nothing too major in terms of a negative effect on it, but it was still a divorce. It's basically the end of his life, because not only did his wife divorce him, or actually it's a mutual divorce. What am I saying? it was also his son, his only son is off to college, so his son literally had to leave him so he could start figuring out his own life. And as well as, he just doesn't have a stable place. His construction company is kind of not doing so well, and his house is kind of, being sold because of the whole divorce proceeding. So basically, he's just in this uncertain pattern of like, what do I do now? Like, does he continue on life just trying to be a single guy, just trying to, live paycheck to paycheck and just try to figure out what's next and just be there for my son? What does he do next? And at first for me, it was like, do I really care about this? Do I really care? I mean, yeah, I feel sorry for the dude, but I really don't. Maybe he doesn't know what to do. Like, he just literally just froze his wedding band in a safety deposit box for some reason. I mean, he could have easily sold it. I mean, no offense. I know, like, it's symbolically, like, it's you marry, like, at first, the love of your life, you have kids, and then you kind of, it has sentimental value, but since just the way things ended, it literally just, it is what it is. But, whatever the case, he has his own reasons. No one's always a nice dude. And then he gets involved in a bank robbery in progress. Initially, he kind of seems like the cowardly character to, like, just back down, let the police come when they can, and then, just stay down there, hope to stay alive. But no, he does something that most people doesn't do. He looks at danger, at first, very scared eyes, but he does it with, like, just the sense of, like, his life experience and just what he's been through so far. And again, he has nothing to lose. Like, at that moment, you could just say that was a moment of weakness, that he just didn't know what was next for his life. Okay, if he gets shot by these gunners, okay. It was, like, I think the lowest point no one has ever gotten to his life by that point. And when he got out of it and he realized he's alive, and it's like, it's not the adrenaline rush of it, but it's kind of like just like a inspirational spark that, like, he did good at this. It's like when you accidentally discover you're skilled at something and you realize, what more can I do with this? And and I guess I don't, again, like, I know they had to kickstart the story there. Actually, what's funny is that the entire premise of the show is actually based on a real story. I figured that out much later on. I think before we started season 2, back way years ago. I remember there was actually an LAPD station out there, and ironically, I went to Los Angeles a few weeks ago, but whatever the case might be for that. But anyway, so apparently there was a real life station that was taking in older recruits. Regardless of their age, they're like, it's still experience. They have a unique set of experience from their life that they could apply to the job, and it could mean a much more different outcome than if you had a traditional rookie, to and from. And, that's where the inspiration for the show came from, and that kind of kickstarted the whole thing. So then we cut into 6 months later, where Nolan is now transferred to the LAPD, and he's about to start working there as a rookie to be a proper police officer for the force, and that's kind of where we continue onward. And honestly, I did appreciate the fact that they could have done the traditional show thing where they could have flashback to the Academy to kind of fill in some episodes. They don't really talk about the Academy that much. Even like now in season 5, I feel like we've only got maybe 2 moments from the Academy, and that's about it. And even they were very specifically straight on saying, well, yeah, we're not doing flashbacks. We're not talking about the Academy life because it's just Academy life. Like, it would just be unnecessary fluff to the show just to fill in time when they know they have like a good story to tell. They know that these characters can be interesting on the day-to-day in the roles of rookies instead of just going back and forth. And I was actually very thankful for it. That's how I thought the show was going to continue on, where we were going to get flashbacks, but we didn't. I think the first flashback we got was in season 3. So they really didn't need them at all, which honestly, I really do appreciate. And that's kind of how the show gets rolling. You meet your main characters, Nolan's fellow rookies, Chen and Wes, and then you have their commander, Commander Gray, and then you have the TOs, the training officers, for each of them. Nolan gets Bishop, Chen gets Bradford, and then Wes gets Lopez. And oh my god, I feel so sorry. The original captain, I know the actress's name, but I don't remember her freaking name. It's so... I'm just gonna call it the original the OG captain. That's what we call it. I apologize. Like I claim myself to be the rookie fanboy as well. It's the number 3 show on my list of all time, and yet I can't even remember every character's name. I apologize. I'm a human being, and also I'm doing this unscripted. I have no phone next to me, so I'm trying to do my best here. So I apologize. I really, really do. And honestly, from the get-go, and this is where I was watching season 1 and going forward, where I really like these characters. I really, really do. Like, every one of them have their own identity. They kind of play a little bit with the expectation factor. And, you have some things that are like, okay, that's what's to be expected. And then it was like, oh, okay, that's interesting there. And just to kind of label a couple things, especially with the Tio and the rookie partnership. Nolan and Bishop, exactly how I predicted. Bishop, hard ass, just trying to do her job, wants to be a detective. Nolan's just another, obstacle for her to be there. And that's basically it. Chen and Bradford, being honest with you, and I swear to God, I am not trying to appease to the Chenford fans out there, because literally I tweet one thing out there last summer, and all of a sudden my entire Twitter feed is just filled with Chenford fanatics. I do not support anything. It is kind of still weird for me, because going back to season 1, starting episode 1, I thought they were going to be something different. Like, I didn't know anything about Bradford. I didn't know anything about Chen, and obviously by the end of the first episode, I was like, okay, that's not the direction they're going to go in. But at first, I was like, there is a split chance I could believe these two are going to start a secret affair, that they're going to start secretly sleeping with each other just for the sake of the rush. That was like my first impression on their first scene. Like the first scene where Bradford does one of his traditional Tim tests, where in this case he questions Chen on where they are, what's their location. Chen does not know any of the answers. In the simulation that Bradford gets shot, ironically. And, so it's like, yeah, I'm dead. Like, you can't even save me. I'm dead. Like, you shouldn't be out here. Like, you should get out of the car, out of the AC environment, go into the hot LA sky, and figure out where the hell you are. And honestly, I was like, okay, it couldn't be that bad. LA shouldn't be that bad. I stayed in LA for 1 week. I kid you not. No matter how much deodorant I use, no matter how much I use, how many loose shirts I wore, I was sweating my balls off in the first hour. And I'm sorry for my profanity, but I'm taking it now from real life experience, so take my word there. I also visit LA. It's a decent state, in my opinion. No offense. Anywho, in that moment I felt like, okay, they're gonna start something, like there's gonna be some sort of like, secret thing. But of course, obviously, by the end of the episode, where you discover more about Bradford, then you discover more about Chen, you realize, okay, that's not in the cards in the moment. And we'll talk about more of that in season 2 when we get to that point. And then we have West and Lopez, where their dynamic is a little bit more chill. I think of all the three, they're the most chill of the three. It's not to say Lopez doesn't always ride him and also, give him some real tests or give him some real, lessons. But in reality, like, Wes is your traditional Boy Scout, where he grew up with the police lifestyle. His dad is a police officer. He's one of the head honchos in IA. And he grew up with the mentality like, you have to be the best police officer you can be, no matter what's thrown at you. And that kind of like allows him and Lopez to kind of have like this, like, okay, I got the golden goose, I got the golden egg, it's like literally the easiest here. I just train him to be a little bit better, give him some basic lessons, and I'm done. Again, and it was like, for me, I was like, okay, it was gonna be like, Wes is gonna play the traditional. I'm always like, this is easy street, like this is so easy for me, like I know how to do this. And again, it's all about defining expectations, because not even by the end of the first episode, you just already have everything flipped under the skin, where like Nolan should just trust his instincts. Bradford has a druggy wife. Chen and Nolan are actually sleeping with each other instead, and Wes is scared of shooting a gun. So I was like, okay, now you interest me, because like you're taking the expectations that I was expecting and just kind of throwing them out the window. And honestly, I respect that out of that. And again, you can say anything you want about the Nolan Chen stage. Was it still weird now in the context of season 4 and 5? It is for me a little bit. It is weird that they kind of like made them hook up like that. Like honestly, when I was watching the promos, I never expected that out of them. I never really did. And honestly, that was like kind of good marketing. Like, I think like they did market Nolan kissing a girl. I just thought it wasn't Jen. I thought it was just a random other girl, like they were just going to introduce another character. But no, it's actually just a completely different character. Well, actually, no, it's actually just the same character. No, I was just blindsided, or I wasn't really paying attention that well when the promos were signed for the show. And then by the time you reach the end of the first episode, where like like there's still much to do. Where like this was shot as a traditional pilot, where like you leave the door open for like more adventures, but at the same time it's kind of like an open close thing, where like it's really like you can only speculate that they'll have many adventures if they never got picked up for a series. But in reality, like, by the time we reached the end of the pilot, I was like just all in. Like I was just ready to go. Especially just seeing Gray and Nolan at their original start, where like Gray completely hated Nolan from the ground up. Like, he never wanted him to go past day one, let alone day two. Like, he just fucking hated him. And he, like, literally, like, meant that. And, you know, always teasing him and always just harassing him, like, giving him, like the dirt grit of the boot. And the captain having to step in and say, look, listen, we're giving Nolan a chance here. Like, you know, let him see what he's going to bring to the table before you start, like, really grinding him. And it was kind of weird. Like, for me, it's like, it's the traditional, like, you know, all the characters really have nothing big and interesting to do until, like, this character shows up, in case of Nolan. Kind of has that feeling a little bit where, like, yeah, Nolan's presence in this LAPD station kind of shakes things up a little bit, kind of gives everything with a much more unique perspective a little bit, and it kind of makes it for more of an interesting show, in my opinion. And I think the only other thing that I have to mention about the pilot specifically was, this was clearly like a pilot setup where, like, I think they actually just used, like, real life locations and kind of forwarded that to the LAPD station they were using, because there was a clear difference from episode 1, episode 2, which obviously that's when the show gets picked up, so you have a budget to work with, and, you know, they got to build sets and everything. So there definitely was, like, a far cry between what they were setting up in the first episode to basically the rest of the show. But that's traditional pilot fare. I don't really have to, it's just an observation or anything. But no, like, you know, when I finished episode 1, I was like, yeah, still very much into it as I was in the past, and then I was, you know, all in on it. And then going into the rest of season 1, where it was stylized as, like, you know, what actual rookies would go through, you know, learning the basics of the robe, doing night shifts, plains clothes day, doing, like, making sure they're all checked off to a T. Like, they've honestly, like, really done their homework. And obviously, again, when it comes to a TV show adaptation of anything in, like, the real life, you know, sphere of, like, law enforcement or military, or, like, it's very rare. Not everyone's going to be a Top Gun. Not everyone's going to do it. Even they made fun of that in a later season of the show. I forgot what season it was, but they even made fun of that in a later season. Like, there were aspects of it where, like, this is totally just fabricated for the sake of dramatic television. Which, honestly, yeah. Again, like, just because you see this on television doesn't mean it's actually what it is in real life. So when I was in LA, I was not expecting most of what they were pitching on the show. And sad to say, the homeless problem is an actual problem. Like, they mentioned that frequently in this season alone. And when I was in LA, I was like, okay, yeah, I definitely saw the actual comparisons there. But going through season 1, and now going into, like, just the bulk of it, you definitely got everyone had some sort of direction, and everyone had some sort of, you know, motivation to kind of keep going. Like, of the 7 core characters, which is the 3 rookies, our commander, and our TOs, everyone has had at least some sort of story beat to go through. And Nolan, obviously being the main rookie, he had the main story of just basically just trying to survive being a 40-year-old rookie in this, like, big environment, and trying to prove his worth to everyone that, like, yeah, he is worthy of being here regardless of his age, regardless of his background, regardless of if he had little to no interest in even joining the PD back when he was their age. And they mentioned that a lot, like, that Nolan's experience in the real world has definitely come into play. Him being a father, him being very sympathetic to people that have been through a lot, because he was in those positions once. Of course, obviously, the whole phrase is, like, we always have a choice. Like, you never have to resort to a life of crime. You never really have to do really destructive things just to get your way. You never really have to. You kind of have to, like, go the process that life is meant for you to be through, and then hopefully you will be rewarded at the end of the day. And that's kind of what the show reminds me of when it comes to Nolan's character, is that we get that constant reminder where, you know, either Nolan has to save a kid out of a car, because not only is it, like, the right thing to do, but also he has dealt with that with his own son. Not like, hopefully not in that specific experience, but, like, he's had that, you know, the worriness of being a father to, like, make sure the kid's all right. And then also just, you know, understand, like, you know, when I believe there was a later episode where he had to arrest a father of a son who had some illicit problems with the law, and it hurted him because he was taking away the father from his son. The son and the father were being separated, and, you know, obviously him being an actual father, he never wanted that for his son, let alone now he has to do it to this guy. And of course, obviously, if you know, in terms of just the complexity of being a father, which I don't know anything about, but I'm just guesstimating here, he would want to keep them together, but he can't, because, you know, he has to follow the rules of his job and you know, enforce the law that, like, this guy has to be taken away no matter the cost. And it really sucks for him, because, like, deep down he wants to keep them together, but he doesn't. And that's just the fine line he has to pay, where, like, he has moments of weakness where he debates, like, I need to do things because this is how things in my head are right, instead of doing the actual way. Like in a later season episode, not later, this season, later in the season, where Nolan's best friend, the rich dude that allows him to live in the guest house, basically for dirt cheap, he gets assaulted by a carjacker, and Nolan wants to take down the carjacker, but the detectives are like, no, he's just a small fish. We're going to use him to get to a bigger fish, but we have to cut a deal with him that he's going to be let go afterwards. And Nolan was pretty torn on that, because he understands that there's a larger game at play, but at the end of the day, he cares about the people he cares about, especially his friend, and the fact that the person who assaulted him, took his vehicle away, is going to go scot-free at the end of the day. It doesn't sit well with him, but he has a moment where he almost snaps, and he almost gets to that point of hey, I need to really show this guy a lesson, but the detective's gotta rein him in. It's no, you can't. We have our place. We perform our duty, and that is it. He has a purpose. Once he accomplishes it, we're snapping him off. That's it. And it hurts him. And I think, but however, even at the most crucial moments where no one knows right from wrong, and that helps with his age and his experience in life, is that when sadly the captain dies for his protection, he's the one to cuff the killer. He's the one to put him away. But at the end of the day, he couldn't get that final punch in, even though his captain gave her life for him. He still knew I have to do what she believed in, follow things by the book, and put this guy away. And he did that, regardless of how much anger and just the amount of freaking darkness he had in him for that event. He still did the right thing, and that carried for. In terms of his romantic relationship with Chen, and we'll use that as a connection to Chen in a little bit. I thought it was a little weird. It was definitely sweet. Even they mentioned the fact that Chen really only did this because she wanted to get back at her parents for for deciding for her to be a little bit untraditional by going after a divorced dad of one who also works with her. She doesn't care. She's in that sort of semi-rebellious stage of her life where her Chen growing up, she's always kind of had to follow a certain straight, narrow line. And then when she got to the point of you know what, I don't gotta do this anymore. And, I want to be a police officer, and I don't care what my parents think. Regardless of that, she's still no. I do think there was genuine feelings between them. There was definitely a genuine bond between them, but I feel it was kind of the rebound effect, where no one just came off a divorce, and yes, he's trying to do the right thing, but in reality, it was really set up to be doomed at the end of the day, because they work together, they're in very close proximity to each other, there's more people that's going to know them down the road, and, obviously, once everyone finds out that they're dating, it kind of paints a bad stigma on Chen, because Chen will just be perceived oh, she's just dating officer, when it benefits her, and she's going to have that sort of status growing up when she moves up a few levels. And yeah, that can't really be ignored, but still, it just kind of it doesn't really help her out at the end of the day if it gets let out. That's kind of how Bishop, instantly Bishop knew by the end of the first episode, where she's yeah, I know you two are dating. This gotta stop. You can't keep this up anymore, because honestly, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to hurt him. And then Nolan's relationship at the end with the I forgot, there was that weird interview where there was that I think it was an ex-cop's or ex-soldier's wife that just suddenly got attached to Nolan because he saved her, and she got that whole the victim mentality of oh my God, you're my savior, I need to praise you, I need to be with you. And Nolan's I appreciate the sentiment, but I literally have no interest in you, lady. I have no interest. And this final relationship with the I think it was the bomb squad expert, or just the Homeland Security. I forgot the expert. I just watched the episode, but I really forgot the name of her. It was very different. It was very just attraction. It was just chemistry, where it always depends on just how things go, because every relationship is different. You have the common interest relationship, then you have just the connection, these two, you can be a completely different person than your partner, but it just works. It doesn't really explain. And so everything in this season so far was just with Nolan in terms of his romantic relationship. It just been just the connection. It just never was a similarity thing. It was just a connection base. It just works. And it was sweet, but it definitely does give Nolan the mindset of, at the end of, having to speak up a little bit more often than now, because at the start he was kind of a little bit more reserved, because he has to know his place. He's in a very different position than everyone else, so he kind of has to be very careful, smartly, and also harder to get to where he needs to be at the end of the day. But towards like the second half of the season, you got to see him like open his shell more up. You know, even of his rookie status, he was kind of like viewed everyone else as kind of like an equal at times, and you know that kind of makes him and his rookie class kind of special. That you know this was like a different sort of generation, so to speak. Going into Chen. Chen, I think mostly I was kind of scared that she was just gonna end up like just being Nolan's girlfriend throughout the rest of the season, as well as you know just the labels that go with that. But that slowly kind of flipped away from me even after the first episode, once we kind of get to discover her and Bradford's connection. And this is the weird thing about their connection, and I'm not surprised that you know the like a lot of shippers that kind of jump ship on it. It's a very unique situation where I can see them being friends if they're not in uniform, but it's their connections like kind of deeper than friends, but they're definitely not brothers and sisters. They're definitely not in the romantic side. They're in that weird position where like it just works. And I mentioned that before earlier when Nolan's character, it just works, and it's so weird to say because I've always been speculating, at least up to season 2, because I gave up after that, but I just didn't know what do I classify them, because like yeah, they're Rookie and Tio. That's their connection. But the more they get to know each other, especially when Chen gets involved more in Bradford's, you know, life with his you know, estranged wife who was in narcotics, but then she fell into the influence of drugs and she kind of like went off the deep end. And she was there for Bradford. You know, at first, you know, it was just like her just following Bradford's orders and just making sure that, you know, she passes the Tim tests and all that sort. But the more you start to get into like, you know, whenever Bradford runs into his ex-wife, he always has that challenge himself, like, you know, because they're still married at the end of the day, so he's still trying to be the husband he wants to be to her, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't meant to work, and there were moments where Chen had to intervene, regardless of her status, regardless of this, you know, their professional relationship. Like she knew, like she had to intervene and say, like, you're not thinking straight. Like you kind of have to kind of realign yourself, be the Tim I know you are, because you're going to self-destruct yourself just for a woman that clearly is not the same woman you fell in love with. And I feel like that was Chen's like kind of like overall drive. You know, we got to see more of her as a character through her connection with Bradford. And one episode that stood out was the episode where we got to meet her dad, and you know, we understood the root of why Chen wanted to be a police officer, not because she really wanted to be, she wanted to make a difference to make change, but also she wanted to prove her parents wrong, that because her parents are psychologists, so they don't believe in the law in terms of the punishment with prison or such. They believe in like therapy and believing in, you know, mental repair, you know, doing other method that doesn't involve them getting arrested, you know, trying to stop any sort of incident before they occur. And they view policing as like a bad example. And Chen being with them is like kind of like not great for them, because it kind of like creates this divide between them. Chen doesn't care at the end of the day, but she still loves her parents. Even by that episode when we got to it, when Chen and her dad were at the hospital, Chen's dad kind of opened up a little bit more, but it's also the circumstance of like, you know, Chen, it's the same thing with Nolan. Like, no matter what your personal beliefs are, your personal connections are with anyone else in your life, that doesn't matter. You still have a job to follow. You still have to follow the law, follow by the book. There are leniencies, but however, there's a certain point where like you can't really shy away from it. And even by the end of that episode, even with the progress that they had with each other, with the events of that episode, and specifically, Chen still had to do her job, and it once again fractured their relationship. But Chen knew at the end of the day this was the right thing to do. This was the right thing. And the last thing I'll say about the whole Chenford thing is that, yeah, even by the end of the first season, when we got to that episode with the virus, and, you know, Bradford and were separated with Chen because he was exposed to the virus and he wanted to keep Chen safe. Again, like, it was so difficult because like it felt like, you know, Chen and him were dating, but they're not. They're just, you know, Tio and Rookie. But it just speaks to them of like having that sort of unique connection where like, yeah, Bradford just likes torturing Chen, but he also believes that she does have the makings of a good cop. But he can't admit that because he doesn't want to make her believe and make her soft. He doesn't want that. He has a certain method, and that's what he's going to follow through at the end of the day. And that's kind of how they kept things going. And even by the end of that season, I was like, okay, they're just, you can say they're friends. And even Bradford would probably admit by that point, like, yeah, we're not friends. Like, we're not. We're just Tio and Rookie. That's all we are. But it isn't. I don't know. For me, I'm very indecisive on that. I'm not going to put my camp in anything until we'll see what the writers do. We'll see. That's all I'm going to say. But for Tim, like, Tim is I think for me, I think he's like next to Nolan. I think he's my favorite character of the show. If I have to rank them, it would be Nolan, Bradford, Lopez, and Gray. No offense to everyone else. It's just those are just my top four. Bradford has always had a certain way where like no matter how much he goes through, he's still a fucking hardcore, hard ass. That's never going to change about him. That really isn't. Even when he has those moments of weakness with seeing his ex-wife, he still realized at the end of the day he has a job to do. He knows what the position he's in, and he kind of has to continue the way things are, regardless of that fact. And in the first half of the season, that was definitely his, character journey of like just him dealing with the reality of like, yeah, his wife is out there doing very illicit stuff, even though they are still married. It hurts him at the end of the day. Like, think about it like this: how would you feel if the person you're married to, becomes a completely different person, and then they start cheating on you, even though you're married, doing like very illegal activities and like getting themselves into like more peril? Like, how would you feel? And there were moments where like Bradford never broke down and cried or anything because that's just not his character. But he did have moments where like he just generally was like weak, like not like a physical weakness, but just he just knew that he would fall on his knees and do whatever he could. He was at times willing to break the law to protect his wife. And that's where Chen came in, like kind of had to steer him away, like be that moral light that he needed at that current time period. And then we got closure from that arc later on when his wife did get the help they needed, but then they realized that they were never meant to work out because Bradford is such a specific person at the time they met, where like Bradford has a certain standard that everyone has to uphold, even if they're his wife. And she felt it, and that pushed her away, and that kind of it wasn't the healthiest response. There definitely was, other choices they could have made, but that was the choice she made, and she paid the price for it. But it definitely kind of woke Bradford up that he does need a little bit of change. Not a lot per se, but once that happens, he kind of like focuses straight and narrow on, Chen and trying to make sure that, she's also a great officer for the future, as well as that he's ready to like have that fresh step to being maybe a detective of his own right, and, going through those trials need that may be. And he was willing to go through that to have that fresh start, but was also meant that, towards the end, like, his connection with Chen, like you got to see how a little bit close they got with each other. Not too close, like they got a little bit closer. Like I think the moment like I noticed was when they were doing the whole finishing up the scorecard, where they had like certain requirements, certain crimes that they all had to at least complete once before they take their midway point exams. And he was very, at first, dedicated to like Chen, like making sure she passed. And Bradford is always the type of person like, listen, whatever happens, happens. We do what things are due. Maybe it's life telling you something, but no, he actually, decided to like, did everything he could to help Chen, and it all worked out. It all paid off. And honestly, it just showcased like, he does really care about her. Whether you can say romantically or just emotionally or just like professionally. I can't really say what is what, but it is what it is. By the end of the day, with that, we'll see how that future goes. Going into our last of our rookies, West. West was always in an interesting standpoint, I think, for me throughout the entire 3 seasons. He definitely had some sort of like every season, like he had to come for something, deal with some sort of like rising tower of stuff to deal with. Even when they were pitching him in the first episode, when pitching him as like the son of the commander, and not son of the commander, like son of one of the bigger heads, one of like the big known names of it's like when you're associated with like someone even more famous and more on the same level as you, and then you kind of enter into that ring, like you have a certain expectation to it. Everyone expected West to kind of come flying golden colors out of the gate, and that kind of all gets stopped over once they realize he can't shoot a gun. It gets even worse when Bradford finds out. And even Bradford yells at Lopez, like, you literally gave me career suicide. Because if I fail the kid, if he dies, and once they find out he can't shoot a gun for shit, or he can't even participate in a firefight, I'm screwed, because that failure will be considered on me. And, it just showcases, like, yeah, like, West did not have any sort of special treatment. Like, he had that mindset growing up to be the perfect cop, but in reality, everyone has shortcomings. No one is ever perfect. And even he had to wrestle with that. Like in the first half, he was trying to wrestle with the fact that, yeah, he is the son of a really great officer. And how does he live up to that? And, him at first is trying to make sure he beats all his dad's records, or trying to at least live up to what his dad set as the standard. And having there be moments where like he kind of, falls underneath a little bit, but he also sees the positive side of like, what did he gain that wasn't what his father actually achieved when he was his age. It definitely gave him a bit of a more of like a unique complex to kind of make him his own officer. Even he and his dad, like, they have more issues when we get to the second half of season 1, especially when during the bus breakout episode, when I think he met one of the more recurring characters of the show. I forgot his name, but when he was introduced self-doubt into his mind, and then having some things kind of connect a little bit, and kind of having to kind of question that, is my dad really who he said he is, and then having that argument about it, just in the sake of like, things were different back then, and things are still different now. Like, nothing's perfect with the system, but the fact that, he was taught a certain way, and then his dad kind of had to bend some rules to get the results he did, which, whether it was confirmed or not, it's still very much, it didn't really sit right with him, just having like someone like confidently say that, yeah, this happened, your father's not exactly who he said he is, just to create conflict. But then you kind of see like the whole 180 around for Wes at the end of the first season, when the beginning of season 1's Wes would definitely not go into a firefight risking his life with a gun ready to shoot point blank. He would not do that. And at the end of season 1, you saw a completely different Wes, a more confident one, who accepts like anything in life could happen, but at the end of the day, you still have a certain duty to the people that you're protecting and the people you care about, and no matter what the cost is, you kind of have to do the right thing. Which, ironically, I'll come back to that in a few years. I'll come back to that line in a few years, if I remember. Oh god, I don't even want to think about it a few years from now. I don't want to think about it anyway. Going to his own team, Lopez. Lopez was the more spicier one of the group. I feel like out of everyone, at first glance, she didn't really get much to do. I know her and Bishop had a bit of a rivalry to see who was going to be detective first. And at first, Lopez getting West as her rookie was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because she felt like, oh my god, I'm going to train the one of the top heads' son, who is already like very infused in the way of policing. Like, this is an easy year for me. This is definitely going to give me great marks when I, apply to be detective. And honestly, that's all appreciated, but then she kind of gets thrown on the wayside when she realizes that he has a lot more to work about. Like, this is not going to be an easy case. But she's the friendlier of the three TO. She's the friendliest. She definitely connects with Wes the most. They definitely have a more of like a friendship vibe earlier on. It definitely is not like a friendship. They don't label it as like, we are friends, but they are more friendly towards each other than like the other two are. Like, Nolan and Bishop takes a little bit more time. Chen and Bradford took a lot more time after that. But it worked. It worked. But that was mostly her drive to like make sure that Wes is the best that he can be. Not just for the sake of her being detective, but also just for the sake of just making sure he's a good officer to kind of carry on the legacy that his dad set up in stone for him. But then when you get to the second half of season 1, and you get to give him like her an actual, like, out of everyone in the cast, like, she actually got a genuine love interest in Wes Lee, which is ironic. You have her rookie, which is named Wes, and the guy she's first fucking and then dating, Wes Lee. It's like, I don't know if that was on purpose, but I'm like, that's just kind of funny. Also, shout out to the actor who plays Wesley. He played Iceman in the X-Men movies. He then also had a role in The Boys. He's done a lot of things. He's done a lot of things in the past few years. So kudos to him. I love seeing his face around. Oh, Sean Ashmore. That's his name. Sean Ashmore. Their relationship was like, okay, like, I don't know if I want to get to this now. I really don't. Like, for me, I've had an issue in the past, in my personal past, with certain things. And seeing this in mine was like, it does not help me at all. I can't explain it here because like, it doesn't help with the review. Maybe I'll explain it some other day on a different show. But just generally speaking, like, just their pairing was a little bit off-putting for me a bit. But then once you got to see the argumental nature of them, like, it's just kind of like the opposites attract, where like you have a lawyer and a police officer, one following the law by the rule book, and one trying to like protect people from the law in protecting their not protecting them from the law, protecting their freedoms, no matter what the case is. You kind of have like a match, kind of like a very much of a good old fashioned screaming match, but in reality, like, not even like an episode in, like, they're ready to go on a date, and more importantly, they're just ready to fuck. Like, they're just like ready to bang, and it's like, and at first it's like, okay, it's gonna be a fling. it's not anymore. Even they had a good way to write him off if they wanted to. But no, they kept him around, and it definitely kind of helped Lopez kind of like, they both benefited from each other, not just, sexually, but also just in sense of like understanding the other side of things where, I think Lopez has a better understanding of like, what does it mean to like be a lawyer? What is like the defending law, she was enforcing law. What does defending the law sign mean for her? And then Wesley kind of getting more of an eye opener of like being on the front lines and like seeing crime and danger face first every single day. So you see it for that show, and then it kind of helps each other kind of like figure out the other side's faults and then understanding each other, because like they're both on the same team, but they just have different sort of viewpoints. And as much as they contrast each other a lot of time, they're just energy like this is palpable. It's just the chemistry is just hot. It's fire. I don't even know where I'm going with this. But that definitely did help Lopez at the end of the day. Like even like at the end, like she still cared about Wes at the end of the day. Like even though she knew Detective was in her future, she definitely did care about him and definitely wanted to give him the second chance, which I don't think she would have gotten if she hadn't had her relationship with Wesley. In my opinion, at least. I could be reading too much into it, to be honest with you. Last but not least of the TO and rookies, we have Bishop. This is a little weird to say, because when I started season 2, the episode reviews a long time ago, I mentioned in that premiere review that, like, yeah, Bishop wasn't there anymore. She got written off. There were some onset allegations. Personally, for me, I won't get into that because it's a sad, unfortunate case with allegations. It's like a he said, she said sort of affair. Like, obviously, you should take everyone's word for face value, but that really isn't the case nowadays. People lie. People misunderstood events, and like the truth is never, unless you're physically there, you're never going to know the truth. You really are. There's been so many controversies in the many years. This was one of those, like, I had to research about it. It wasn't one of those big name, news articles that affected the show or anything. It was an internal investigation. Things were said, and things were concluded, and that was it. And Bishop had to go. But in terms of her, like, just on her being on this show for one season, I feel like she was okay. I feel like Bishop just had her own similar story to Lopez, where they both wanted to be detective, and Bishop had the opposite show of training the oldest rookie for the station ever, and she just viewed that as just a challenge that she's just gonna like put on her record of like, I trained the oldest rookie ever, make me detective. But she's always a hard ass. She's very much closed-minded, besides like being a little bit more open with her fellow TOs. She's more reserved. She's more self-quiet. But she definitely does have an emotional side, especially once her and Nolan start to get a little bit more knowledgeable about each other, start to get a little bit more friendly towards each other. And that's because of Nolan's characteristics. Like, it's just never hard not to just be friends with John Nolan. It's just really hard. And eventually they do figure out each other a little bit. They kind of see each other more as, equals and friends. And, that just was the nature of it. And by the time we hit to like more of like the second half of season 1, where we get to see more and more Bishop's emotional sides, whether that was, her trying to help a fellow, peer with a detective going through the loss of his partner, or her having to reunite with an old, adopted, foster brother, and just realizing just how much of her life she's kept hidden from everyone else. And then also just in general, like her entire career went up into like question marks. And it was also ironic that they had that moment of like, questionableness by the end of season 1 with her, because it just seemed like it was just uncertain where things were going to go. It kind of seemed like, and I'm not trying to put the on-set life into like the review, but like it is very much predictable. Like, okay, they wrote off a way to write off Bishop. Out of all the characters on the show, they gave Bishop kind of like an easy explained out somewhat. Obviously, at the end of season 1, the whole investigation against her being kind of question of like, is she compromised for lying about something on her application? Is that really something that she has to like risk her life over? That entire thing was kind of resolved pretty quickly, but the backbone is still there. It's still very much felt throughout even the finale, and you see it for there. But also, like, just in general, like, I think Bishop opened up more as a character, even in her limited time on the show, because of Nolan, just because of his character. It's like, good things start to rub off on people, like, the more time you spend with them. And this case, it was just Nolan's personality, like, her being a little bit more open to things, her being a little bit more, open to the idea of, like, certain positive traits. A moment was like in the Valentine's Day episode where Nolan and his friend was trying to throw a party, and at first it was just Nolan and Chen, and then they got to, and that was the same episode where Nolan had that stalker crush, and then she at first was like trying to be avoidant, trying to stay away from things. She decided at the end of the day just kind of to come out and just be just live in the moment, just like just see what else is out there, just like be a little bit more open, and that that definitely wouldn't happen had her experience with Nolan not kind of made her open to certain things. And lastly, Commander Gray. Commander Gray was, oh my god, like I think the funniest guy in the world. Ironically, I've seen his actor before many moons ago in the old years of the 2000s when a young Joe was watching a movie called Soul Plane on TV, and there was a scene where, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling Soul Plane, you can go find it, I think it's on HBO Max now or Hulu or either one of the services, and he gets strip searched by a security officer who definitely took power way too much into her own hands, and it was a funny scene. It really he was also in, I think, Kong Skull Island, I believe. So I've seen him around a couple times before the show premiered, and then seeing him premiere, like he had a certain like brass to him, like he's serious, stern, but he could be funny in his own way. He really is. Mostly his relationship, his personality and his character traits and his development were kind of tied into his relationship with the other officers, specifically with Nolan, Bishop, as well as times, especially Nolan, because like at first he just didn't like Nolan at all. He really didn't. He wanted him out of the program. He wanted him out of his station, and he swore by the end of the first episode, like, I will do whatever I can to test you every day to make sure the last day was harder than the last, because you do not belong here, and I'm going to make certain of it. But slowly but surely, they do have this moral understanding of each other. Slowly, it was about the episode when we got to meet Nolan's son Henry for the first time, and that was also the same point when we got introduced to Gray's daughter. And while they were kind of bonding, Nolan and Gray had no choice but to bond themselves, and they kind of understood each other a little bit. They really did, like because like they're both fathers, like they kind of can understand that about themselves. Like, yeah, we're both fathers. We both understand the moral integrities of being responsible parental figure to our children. They understand that, and they kind of use that as a kind of like an equal ground. Like, there were moments where like Nolan kind of overstepped it afterwards, like, hey, we're friends now, and Gray was like, no. But you could see there definitely was like more of like a change with Gray, that he knew that Nolan's not bad. I still gotta test this guy. There's still a chance, but I still gotta, I could trust him a little bit more, and that was a little bit more noticeable. But he always has his heart set up for the best for his officers, no matter what. Even when the captain passed away in the next episode, we got a temp officer, a temp captain, and he hated him a lot. He just did not like his presence there, and he just wanted to throw this guy over a cliff or something. But he kept going. He kept through because he cared about his officer. He wanted to make sure there was some sort of semblance of normalcy, even though they were kind of like figuring out this new order, this new leadership style. And thankfully, that was just a temporary order. But still, it definitely kind of just kept things guesstimating, keeping things going for him. Just understanding it more. Like I'm not gonna say he's like a teddy bear. I'm not trying to say that at all. But it just you never really know people. You can't judge them by their color until you actually get to know them, and that's what I saw more in Gray. Also, the fact that Gray is dating or is married to an actress that I've seen now 3 times. His wife, I forgot the actress's name, but she played. She was in Lab Rats when I was growing up. She was also in Runaways, which I just reviewed for Quick Impressions. Also on What's on the Tube over on ActionX. And I'll be reminded she is here on this show. It makes me funny, like how small the TV world is. Like, you never really know where the next job is. You never really know when, like, the next time you'll see a character. And believe me, there's a lot more moments to come for this season. And that kind of gets to my point. Like, we're kind of in the wrap up stage of it. Like, what were my favorite moments? What were my favorite episodes of the season? And most of my favorite guest stars. We got a lot of cool guest stars. We got Mario Lopez. We had Will.i.am. I think we had. I know we had one more named person on the show. I forgot their names already because it's just great. But it's also great. Like, there's just so many more guest stars to come. Like, this was only just like a tip of the iceberg. But it was really cool. But I feel like my favorite moment of the entire show, I want to say, was definitely just the back of the first episode where Nolan just fought tooth and nail, like, with his convincing speech to Gray that no matter what happens, like, he's going to prove himself. He's going to make sure that he is a worthy officer and he has a future here at the LAPD no matter what. I feel like that just kept the spirit going. Like, yeah, even though, like, you made certain advancements in what you're setting out to achieve, there are still moments where, like, okay, I can't celebrate yet. There's still much more work to come, and I hope that things will be all right at the end of the day. But my favorite episode of this season so far. That's actually a pretty trick question in my opinion, because, like, I think all the episodes this season were great. I don't think I've ever, like, once felt like there was a bad episode. I don't think there was ever just a good episode. All the episodes were great. Like, everything just fired on all cylinders. Everything, just it flowed pretty well. It never really slowed down in my opinion. But I think I'll have to give it to the pilot again. Like, just like it perfectly started the ship. It just gave you a great feel of the world. It kind of just set the standard for, like, what the next 19 episodes were going to be for the show. I feel like that just, I think that alone just gives it, like, the #1 spot for now. But yeah, but anyways, just in general, like, any criticism, any notes that I have to make of it. It's kind of hard because, like, when you're like, there's no perfect show. There really isn't. There's certain things like, oh, I wish this was different, or I wish that was different. Definitely with the pacing, this is kind of like more modern day pacing, where, like, my expectation of, like, I assume things would get dragged out, but things are actually getting kind of like resolved, not pretty quickly, but, like, pretty, sporadically. I was a little bit detrimental, and yeah, they wrote it away with a line in the show, but, like, the way the captain went out, which was very emotional. The fact that we never had, like, a proper, like, goodbye to her, like a proper, like, funeral. It's not like we just kickstarted the next episode with, like, just a brief moment, then we kind of, like, just move alongside. And even Gray said it themselves, like, we don't have time to mourn. Like, the job never stopped. We got to keep going. There's no stop or break period. There isn't. But I would have, that is the problem when, like, that they'll have again later down the road, where, like, they just really don't know what the time period is to, like, really, think about just a tragic moment and think about, like, what the ramifications are, and just giving time to breathe a little bit. I think that, like, that was my only real criticism of the season thus far. But overall, for me, at the end of the day, for me, I wholly recommend The Rookie season 1. I really do. It's probably one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It definitely was one of my favorite TV seasons of all time. Even if it didn't have, like, a very much of an overarching story, like a traditional, good versus evil type thing, it definitely has the characters alone. Like, the characters alone were enough to keep the show engaged throughout episode 1 to episode 20. And I can't wait to rewatch season 2 next year, because that's just how much I'm so happy with the show. It's just, it made me want to see more. But obviously at this point, I really can't do that because I got to wait on it. But it definitely made me feel like, yeah, this is a great show. This is really, really great. It's funny. It has its dramatic moments. It has its sad moments. It has a perfect blend of everything. And it definitely gives you the motivation, like, if you can do it, do it. Hope for it, believe in it, and you got this. With enough hard work and dedication, you can get anything done. And that kind of kept things going. And, it just, now going back to the context after so many seasons ahead of it, it definitely, I do have a much more better appreciation to where we started and where they're going for it. So for me, I'm going to give this season of The Rookie 2 thumbs up. Again, I wholly recommend it. Please go check it out. You can find The Rookie season 1 only on Hulu. So go check them out. Check it out right now if you haven't already. Or actually, I don't know why I said that you already watched it. If you already listened to me ramble for God knows how long. But again, this has been that was it for that. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the first season of The Rookie? Did you love it or did you love it? I really can't be more divisive than that. But anyway, this has been Joe from What's in the Tube reviewing the entire first season of The Rookie, spoiler filled. Hopefully we'll get to do this again next year for season 2. But until then, we kind of pick things up where we left off. Next week, we pick things up with Nolan and the rest of the Rookies. We come back to season 5. Chenford fans are screaming. Nolan's going to meet Rosalind again. Sorry, I'm even spoiling future stuff. I apologize. If you don't understand what the hell I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Come back and for a few years later when I talk about season 5 in a spoiler-filled manner. What was I going to say? Will we ever get to see, Harper give birth? What's going to go on with Lopez and Wesley? What's going to happen next? We don't know, but that's going to all happen as season 5 of The Rookie starts next week. Only on ABC's Sunday nights, so go check that out. As well as also next week, the Rookie Feds, the Rookie universe is expanding to become the Rookieverse. So check that out. We're going to get a lot more rookie content this year, and I'm going to be there with you for it because next week we'll be starting our rookie season 5 episode reviews each and every Monday after brand new episodes on ABC's on Sunday nights. I'm going to be dead. I'm going to be really dead. I'm not ready, but I am ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready for another season. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm ready to just keep pounding, screw House of the Dragon, screw The Walking Dead, The Rookie's King on Sunday nights, baby. Let's go. But anyway, that'll be next week. So I can't wait. This is a perfect start to a brand new rookie season, a new rookie year. For the first time, 2 rookie shows. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. It's going to be a lot more work to me. I'm already sweating. It could be the heat. Summer's dying down, but the heat's still there. But again, this has been Joe from ActionX reviewing the rookies' first season. If you want to see more of us, please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next review is live. Please also like, favorite, share this review if you want to, as well as please follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for either of our channels. But until then, for all you members of the Rookie Nation out there, thank you so much for watching me talk about Season 1 finally. We are now complete the journey. I have some sort of record, a recollection of all the 4 seasons so far, ready to go into Season 5, raring to go. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So if you're going to stick around for the Season 5 reviews, as well as the Rookie Fed Season 1 episode reviews, those both start up next week on Monday and Wednesday, respectfully. But I'll see you then. But until then, stay safe out there. Be good to each other. And as always, peace out. Whoa, whoa, I'm gonna win for you, and now I don't remember the theme song.